I'm Sarah Curitan, and I'm the Executive Director of the New Jersey Historical Commission. And I'm so glad that all of you could join us this afternoon. And it's great to follow Lenny's beautiful piece that was produced with Monument Lab just about a year or so ago, because it highlights a lot of our goals that we have been working on for this anniversary, the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States. Now, in partnership with the Crossroads of the American Revolution, the New Jersey Historical Commission has been actually working since 2018 to plan for New Jersey's commemoration of this big anniversary. And I want to just point out for all of you 3 things that are not true about what we've been planning. And by the way, the name of our initiative is RevolutionNJ. So we hope that you'll follow us on social media, get familiar with our website, which is revnj.org, and get more and more involved. So 3 things that are not true about this upcoming commemoration. Number 1, we've got lots of time to prepare. Not true. The anniversary is going to be in full motion in 2026. July 4th, 2026 for many is a big target moment in New Jersey. We'll be doing things before and after, but that's going to be here very, very soon. So it is not too soon to get planning for what your organization, your community, your neighborhood might want to do to mark this anniversary. Number 2 item that is not true is that this anniversary is just about the American Revolution and what happened in that period between the Declaration of Independence and our Constitution and its adoption. This commemoration is about a whole lot more than that. Our hope is that we as a state and as a nation take a look at those events of the American Revolution, take a look at those ideals that were expressed in the founding documents for our nation, and really reflect on them and how they have evolved over time and what they mean to us today. So it's not just about 1776. It's about everything that happened up to that point and those 250 years that followed. And then finally, the 3rd thing I want to point out that's not true about this commemoration is that it's going to be a top-down, hey, we're going to throw a party and we hope you all will come kind of an event. Not at all. And today's webinar is a great explanation of exactly what we're hoping for. And that is that this is very much a community-based activity and initiative. We want to welcome everybody into this initiative, into this commemoration, and your voice, your neighborhood, your community is absolutely critical to both RevolutionNJ and really to our state and our nation in a very fundamental way. So with that introduction, I'm delighted to turn the program over to Dr. Mark Lawrence. He is our chief public historian, and he has put together this tremendous series on creative placemaking. So Mark, let me hand it off to you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you for the great introduction. And yes, everything that Sarah mentioned is exactly the reason why we put together this webinar series. I want to thank everyone for joining us today for the first of 2 of our webinar series dedicated to placemaking for the 250th. As we approach the upcoming 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States in 2026, communities in New Jersey have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to engage the residents and visitors in meaningful programming and initiatives that incorporate the rich cultural histories of our state. While there is no magic bullet for such a heavy lift, placemaking offers a useful toolkit that can help foster collaboration among various sectors and stakeholders. Through its emphasis on people-centered, bottom-up approaches to decision-making, planning, design, placemaking offers us a pathway towards bringing together civic leaders, history and arts organizations, small businesses, and members of the public into realms of community planning, economic development, historic preservation, public arts, heritage tourism, and education. There's a lot of things that it can allow us to do. A national commemorative period is the perfect time to explore how these various stakeholders and domains intersect and reinforce each other. The best news, we don't have to start from scratch. Communities across New Jersey are already doing this work. Today, you will hear from several practitioners who have all embraced placemaking. These speakers will provide an overview of placemaking and examples of how communities have engaged the public in recent years. Most importantly, they will emphasize how New Jersey's rich history can amplify your placemaking initiatives, helping you commemorate the 250th in that people-centered way that Sarah mentioned. As we move closer to 250th, it will be prudent to remember the words echoed by anthropologist Seth Lowe, a scholar of public spaces and its social nature. She urges us to remember that our efforts in the realm of public space need to think of social function, not just beautification. Creating a sense of place that accentuates and weaves the lessons learned from the last 250 years will be the true legacy of this commemoration. Will we be able to meet the moment? If you are up to the challenge, we urge you to join us as a RevolutionNJ community. And we'll be dropping a link in the chat for where you can find that draft resolution and how you can join us on this journey. Our first speaker today, I'm pleased to introduce, is Courtenay Mercer. She is the principal of Mercer Planning Associates, a boutique land use planning firm specializing in comprehensive planning and strategic community engagement. With substantial public and nonprofit sector experience, Courtenay has seen diverse and complex projects within all types of communities. In her current role as the former Director of Planning at the NJ Office of Smart Growth and the NJ Director of Regional Planning Association, Courtenay has been at the forefront of policy and planning initiatives of state and regional significance. Courtenay also serves as the Executive Director of Downtown New Jersey, a nonprofit education and advocacy organization centered around downtown revitalization. In addition to the public and private sector planning work, Courtenay also is involved with many civic and volunteer efforts, including public community boards and nonprofit organizations. Courtenay is a former trustee on the board of the American Planning Association and former president of the NJ chapter. Courtenay is a sought-after speaker and thought leader in redevelopment, downtown revitalization, bike and pedestrian safety, state and regional planning policy, and equitable community engagement approaches. Please welcome Courtenay Mercer. Well, I think you're on mute, Courtenay.
There you go. I knew someone would chime in if something wasn't working. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. I don't feel the need to introduce myself anymore, and we'll just jump right into placemaking. This morning, I'll be giving just more of an introduction as to what placemaking is and some things you can incorporate into it and how it can benefit your economic bottom line. There we go. So basically, it's an approach to community development, community revitalization, public space making that really focuses on the people that use and benefit from a space. It both acknowledges and enhances the physical, cultural, and social identity of the place. It really is a ground up movement. This is not something that the municipality, the county, the state comes down and says, this is what your place is and this is how you should make it. It really is a grassroots effort. And it's about visioning a future for the community that's more equitable and more inclusive and feels like a place you want to be. Really, it's about function before form. In many places, it's very adaptable. It's about inclusion and making sure all members of your community feel like they belong. Obviously, context sensitive. So what works in Newark might not work in Chesterfield or down the shore. It really is about that place. Just a very brief history of placemaking. In the 1960s, Jane Jacobs, the woman on the bottom left, argued in The Death and Life of Great American Cities that urban renewal did not respect the needs of the city dwellers. And basically, she provoked an idea and started a movement that was later supported by William H. White, just above her in the pictures, author of The Social Life of Small Urban Spaces, to curate cities for people by enlivening the neighborhoods through activated public spaces. In the late 1970s, Project for Public Spaces was founded by the three people in the lower middle picture, Kathy Madden, Steve Davies, and Fred Kent, to help cities realize their potential through placemaking. They began with what they now call the lighter, quicker, cheaper experiment in Rockefeller Center, which at the time wanted to put down spikes to prevent people from sitting on the planters. Instead, PPS added benches. That small intervention led to years of work across the country and the world to rethink public spaces. Placemaking became a common theme in planning and design lexicon in this century, and that was supported really by the National Endowment for Arts Creative Placemaking Report explaining the economic benefits. And now for those of us in the field, it really is just a commonplace term and something we're all striving towards. So, I created some little bubble diagrams, and we often think about heritage, visual arts, and performing arts as their own little buckets, and sometimes they overlap. And I think you could see that the visual arts and performing arts, in most places, not everywhere, some are really getting it, overlap more than either of them necessarily overlap with heritage. And so what this looks like is, a lot of mural projects, utility boxes are common, where you see that maybe it's art and history or it's music and history overlap. And I just wanted the last mural I found particularly interesting. Well, the first two are obviously interesting because it's acknowledging past and current members of the community in an inclusive manner. But the last one in Delaware actually depicts colonial soldiers and armament that includes the famous all African-American 1st Rhode Island Regiment. I think that's important to recognize. Again, when we're talking about Rev War, we often think about the founding fathers, but there's so many other stories to tell. And that can be done through this cross-section of art and heritage tourism or heritage. Another way we see, and this is more the music art highlight, but if you throw it in front of a history museum, now you're combining all three, is those Play Me pianos in downtowns. And here's a few examples of those from across the country. And then we also see heritage sites trying to bring people in through the mix, again, with arts or music. On the left, it's the Emlyn Physics Estate, which is right here in New Jersey, holds a regular craft fair. Battleship, New Jersey does this classic cars night. And then, I think one of the icons of heritage tourism locations in New Jersey, the Red Mill Museum Village, does their music at the mill. And if you're familiar with them, they do all sorts of other events as well. So, talking about those overlapping circles, I'm hoping we actually have a shift in the dynamic and we make that placemaking sweet spot even bigger. And we really try to blend in heritage tourism, visual arts, and performing arts as much as possible together to make the places. And so what does this look like? Newark Museum last year launched, this is a heritage and arts, visual arts concept, jazz greats, photography at the museum, but they didn't just stop there. They do a jazz performance in the garden outside of the museum. So we're bringing in all three disciplines here. Now back to my little bubble diagrams. This all actually makes dollars and cents, right? American cultural heritage tourism travelers, have an economic impact of nearly $124 billion. 30% of adults say they specific arts, cultural, or heritage event influences their choice of a destination. And 49% of cultural travelers will pay more for lodging that has a distinctive cultural heritage component. And so, getting back to this separate versus combined, each thing, heritage tourism, visual arts, performance, all produce their own economic development. But we get back to the bubbles in the diagram. When you're working together, it means bigger economic development. And then if you add the business community, it's a bigger impact for all. Cultural heritage tourism that's inclusive of all three disciplines and includes the businesses, really injects new money into the economy. It boosts business and tax revenue. It helps create new jobs. It funds new businesses, events, attractions, helps to diversify the economy. It's support small businesses, including artists and local guides and educators. It can help increase the base for local businesses and really promotes active preservation of local resources by making sure there's a sound economy. So what does this look like? This is downtown Somerville. This is an art installation that combines with history. The mural program featured LGBTQ trailblazers, both past and present. It was coupled with events all month long, including Family Pride Night, which featured a Paint the Town rainbow campaign that had a photo contest, and the winner of the photo contest won a $200 gift card to a downtown Somerville business. So we've got arts, we've got bringing the community in, we're then interjecting new money back to the businesses. And it also included an in-person celebration that included discounts and specials throughout the district. And there was live music, an animated photo booth. And they also, in that particular year, did these glow-in-the-dark swings, seesaws, and other activities. All of these things played together to draw people downtown. Some people were coming for the LGBTQ history aspect of it. Some were coming for the art, some were coming for the activities, but all of them got to touch a little bit of something going on. Another interesting way to combine business and your heritage tourism is to actually bring the business into your heritage tourism. Cold Spring Village now has a brewery, or has for a number of years. That also there's entertainment, and so it's the brewery is attracting people to Cold Springs. Cold Springs is attracting people to the brewery. Again, it's this intersection, this thinking outside of your own box to get new visitors. In Flemington, the Stengel factory is now an arts and cultural district. There's 2 breweries there. There's art-based businesses, and they do plenty of events throughout the year to draw people, new people to the businesses in the district. So I happen to have worked in wearing my Mercer Planning Associates hat on Somerset County's Arts Culture Tradition long range plan. And so how do you get there, right? It's about communication. It's about partnerships, plus the placemaking. And in Somerset County's case, we actually very specifically included and integrated into our process equity and inclusion and health and wellness, and all that together, added, multiplied, however you want to think about it, really means economic development for Somerset County. And I'll just give you some high-level strategies that we worked on there. One was develop partnerships to build cultural audiences, really encourage collaboration on programming, inclusive of the diverse residents, culture, and history of that community. Cross-disciplinary planning and implementation, using storytelling to deepen and diversify the participation, placemaking, activating public spaces with arts, cultural heritage, and history, and then marketing and promoting all of these events, arts, culture, history, with tourism and economic development. They're all together, and it's really just this, the plan consistently said, do this with that, do this with that, do this with that, so that no player is forgetting about the other, and it, raises all ships. And then finally, if people can't get there, you're not going to be successful. So you really need to improve access. It can't be all about cars all the time. And so one, it's other modes. And then it's just that marketing and that making people aware of the various resources. So with that, I'm just here's a few resources, and I will copy links to these into the chat. The National Endowment for the Arts has a beautiful creative placemaking how-to if you're really interested in the economic development side, Michigan State University pulled together a great resource. And then obviously Project for Public Spaces has, as the leader and one of the originators of placemaking, has tons of resources on their website. And finally, we have a resource right here in New Jersey. The NJIT Hub for Creative Placemaking has resources, and they also, if you want to dive deeper into it, classes for you to learn. So here is my information, because I am wearing two hats today, both my private consulting and my downtown New Jersey. And with that, I will pass it back to Mark.
I was also on mute myself, so you're not the only one here, Courtney. Our next speaker, and what a great example you had there of the way we're kind of hoping folks think about the 250th, and the different types of collaborations and really moving across our sort of silos that we've built. We have a lot more in common than we think we do, and it's really just kind of weaving and opening up those lines of communications, as Courtney was mentioning. And I really think you're going to kind of get that strand from all of our presenters today. Our next presenter is Miriam Salerno, a senior research manager with the Voorhees Transportation Center at the Edward J. Blaustein School of Planning and Public Policy at Rutgers University. Ms. Salerno has been with the VTC for over 10 years, and in that time has directed extensive public outreach and stakeholder engagement projects for a variety of clients and projects in New Jersey, including Middlesex County, the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority, Together New Jersey, North Jersey Partners, and New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. She has also served as a principal investigator or a co-principal investigator for many applied research studies. In 2017, Ms. Salerno launched the Public Outreach and Engagement Team at Rutgers University, short acronym POET, a specialized research center devoted to innovative public engagement practices, through which her team's work has won national recognition, including from the American Planning Association New Jersey chapter, and the Transportation Research Board. In addition to engagement work, she manages several planning studies, both at the regional and local scale, including Together New Jersey, to which she provides technical assistance for planning studies, guidance materials, and training to communities throughout the North Jersey region. She holds a master's degree in international environmental policy and development economics from the Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies. Welcome.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you for that introduction. And thank you, Courtnay, for teeing this up for me, because I couldn't have written a better introduction to my presentation than you just gave. So let me pull my stuff on the screen. So as Mark just said, I'm also wearing two hats today, although they sort of like layer on top of each other. But I am the managing director of the Public Outreach and Engagement Team. And I'm also the project manager for Together North Jersey, which is a partnership with the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority. And through that, we do work called the Vibrant Places program. And that's specifically what I'm going to talk about today. So as Mark mentioned, I won't go into this for the sake of time. POET is a multidisciplinary group here within the Voorhees Transportation Center. We combine expertise in planning and outreach and marketing and communications to really deliver specialized engagement to communities who are particularly interested in reaching those harder to reach populations. So we have done innovative work with lots of communities in terms of broadening their approach to public engagement. And then I'm kind of combining my POET hat with my TNJ hat and also talking about the Vibrant Places program. So this is funded by NJTPA. It's part of a larger initiative called Together North Jersey, which some of you may have heard of. It's I won't go into all the background on that project for the sake of time, but through TNJ, we offer the Vibrant Places program, which is designed to provide small, quick, local technical assistance projects in the area of placemaking and economic development. They are competitively selected every year. So we have 2 per fiscal year, and they're designed to be short. So these are like 3 to 6 month projects, although most of the time they do take a full 6 months. And we do them in this lighter, cheaper, faster mentality, as Courtney just mentioned, by using staff here and relying heavily on graduate students here at the Blaustein School to help support these projects. So I'll pitch this at the end, but keep this in mind to apply to our program, because municipalities in the 13-county Northern New Jersey region of NJTPA are all eligible, including nonprofits or other organizations. I'm going to skip back for the sake of time. So just quickly, so my purpose today is to talk about the link between public engagement and placemaking and the role that public engagement plays in the process of doing this great work. And so this is just a graphic that I like to share from the International Association for Public Participation. It sort of shows you the spectrum of ways that communities can be engaged in different kinds of plans and projects. So this covers really everything. And so I circled here where in my work, kind of the public participation for placemaking comes. So we do a lot of surveys, a lot of open houses, a lot of focus groups. We do information exchanges, advisory committees, really sharing a lot of information and trying to get a lot of information from the community. So this is just kind of my intro slide showing some of the things that we have done through the Vibrant Places program. We have done pop-ups, we've done stakeholder meetings, we've done walking tours, and lots of online surveys, online open houses. We've done calls for artists for some of our projects. We've worked with local businesses and set up business stakeholder advisory groups. Oops. And so when we go through these small placemaking projects, what is it that we want to know from the community? And these are just some questions that, for me, have come up over and over again when we're looking to engage the community. Because when you're doing placemaking, it's really important to remember, as Courtney said, that you're creating these places for the people that live there. And you want that work to represent them, and you want the people in the community and visitors to feel at home and feel comfortable and feel like they really have a sense of place that belongs to them. And I like to say that in public engagement in general, the community really are the subject matter experts. So we, as the practitioners, those developing the placemaking plans, really need to look at the community as an integral partner. They are the experts. They know how these places are used. They know what they need. They know what they want to see. And it's on us to bring that into the projects that we develop. So these are just some questions that we've asked in the past, things like, what does this place mean to you? What do you think of when you think of X? What makes this place unique? Describe it in one word. What is your favorite place to visit here? What is your favorite memory? All of these questions are ways of getting at the richness of the experience that people have who live in a particular place or who visit that place that you might want to capture when you're developing your placemaking plan. So now I'm going to go through a few project examples. These are all from the Vibrant Places program. I could say a lot about each one of these, but what I'm going to try to focus on is the role that public engagement played in helping to shape the final product. And I should say, which I don't think I did before, that the Vibrant Places program, we do plans for placemaking. So we're not actually executing these projects in the community. We're helping the communities to develop their plans and ways that they can implement these projects. So what you're going to see here are a lot of renderings and visualizations of what places could look like, but we don't actually go as far in these short projects to implement with towns. So one project we did a couple of years ago was called Engaging the Arts Along the Morris Canal Greenway. And this is one of those projects that, like Courtney mentioned, where I feel like the circles really overlapped nicely. So the recipient for our technical assistance was Passaic County, and we worked with both their economic development and their cultural and historic affairs office. And our task was to design public art along the Morris Canal Greenway to encourage people to both use the Greenway for active transportation, walking and biking, and also to highlight the history, the culture, and local artists in Passaic County. So we did a ton of engagement work in order to develop our concepts. We put together stakeholder groups of artists with expertise in arts, culture, and history. So we worked with local historians, local arts group. We did a survey, and this project actually started before COVID and finished during COVID. So it wound up being an all online survey, but we sent it out to the public, to community groups, and we really focused our questions on sense of history, culture, what kinds of recreation they'd like to see, and what their preference is for experiencing art along the Morris Canal Greenway. And so here are some of the concepts that came out of that work. We heard that people wanted to experience art in motion. So we came up with a concept of, having these storytelling signs along the Greenway where you could display poems or artwork that is experienced while you're moving through the canal. People wanted to learn about wildlife and understand the ecology. So we have this concept for natural sculptures that can teach about native species in the area. People also wanted art that children could experience, to bring kids into the Greenway, and also make sure that it was inclusive and sensitive to those who may have sensory needs. So this is a concept for an outdoor music garden and recreation area. And then people also wanted to highlight the history of the canal, the Morris Canal Greenway, as a canal. So we created a concept for this Zen garden that, has a canal boat in it, so people could take a rest as they're biking or walking along the Greenway to enjoy the canal. Similarly, we did a project in Perth Amboy. They wanted to redesign a lot that was currently a vacant, which they locally called Fink Park, but there isn't much there that makes it a park. It's just a small space in the downtown. And they worked with us to develop a plan to reimagine this park. Now, this park is right near a middle school. And so one of the things among many that we did was to engage the middle school students to get their ideas of how they would want to use this space. The city officials we spoke to told us that it's kind of like a hangout. They'll go there after school, have snack, just, relax. And so we developed a visualization activity for the middle school kids. It was passed out at school. They could draw and describe what they wanted to see in Fink Park. And I like this one here because it actually, we really did take into consideration what the kids wanted. And some of the renderings, we gave the city many options for what the park could look like, really use some of the concepts that the kids came up with. They wanted shade, they wanted somewhere to sit out of the rain. They wanted something that could be like a performance space here. You can see this stage here. So we also did general outreach to the public, and we worked with the local business community. But this one was unique because of, how involved the school was. So think about that as well as you're deciding how to engage with your community. Really engaging with schools is a great way to get inspiration from the kids that live in the town. We also did a Dover visitors guide. This was the town of Dover, which is in Morris County. You're going to hear a lot about projects going on in Morris County. But they wanted a way to bring people into Dover to highlight the culture and the history of Dover. So we worked with them to develop a visitor's guide pamphlet that could be passed out in stores or online that highlights the cultural cuisines in Dover and also the history. And what we did here that was really interesting was we worked very closely with the business community in Dover. I know Courtenay mentioned that as well, being one of the key stakeholders you want to reach out to, but this was really critical for this because we wanted to make sure that we represented in this visitor guide the businesses and the local organizations the way that they wanted to be represented. Dover is incredibly diverse there. It's heavily Latino, but within that, there's a diversity of different types of cultures and cuisines. And we wanted to make sure that we did, a good job of representing them in this guide and what makes their businesses and restaurants unique. We also worked really closely with the town historian to include a walking tour. Sorry, I should change the slide. A walking tour in the visitor's guide so that people could come to Dover, enjoy restaurants, enjoy the shops, and then also take time to walk downtown and learn about the history of Dover. So this is, again, one of those that was a nice cross-section of culture, history, and art. I should have mentioned on this side, you can see we had a call for local artists. One of the things we wanted to do in the guide was highlight work of local artists that depicted Dover. So this cover image here was from a local artist in the downtown. Similarly, Demarest Place in Hackensack was another one of these visioning projects that included a lot of input from the community. We were working to reimagine this small street that connected the bus depot to the Hackensack Performing Arts Center. And the city wanted it to have an arts feel. So they wanted to create an art walk. So we helped them to reimagine what it could look like. And we worked extensively with Arts Bergen, which was a local arts organization. They had done the series of what they called the Hacktivator, where they had actors in these booths, and people pretended to kind of put money in the booth, and the actor came alive and talked to them about what they wanted to see and help them to imagine what the space could look like. So it was a really nice way of including the arts in the engagement process, and it was a lot of fun. So for this one, we created 4 concepts for them for how to reimagine this space. And again, all of these concepts came out of what we heard from the public, what people wanted to do with that space. They wanted farmers markets. They wanted artisan kiosks. They wanted to be able to browse and walk through this area. They wanted to have, I don't know if you can see here in the rendering, a place for performances, maybe spoken word poetry or story slams or something. So we created a visualization here where we have a performance space. Again, wanting activities for kids, engaging activities, creative activities. You can see there's blocks and play equipment, and then really bringing the place to life at night in the winter with murals and lighting displays to help enliven this small area in downtown Hackensack. Similarly, in Bound Brook, for Bound Brook, we worked with them to create a visual identity and wayfinding plan to increase connectivity in the downtown. Wayfinding, for those of you that are not in the planner field or not familiar with that term, is basically signs to get where you want to go. And in order for those to be really effective, they should represent the place. They should give you a feel when you see the wayfinding, when you see the signs telling you what's there and where to go, of what you're going to experience. So it's nice when those have a particular design element to them that really reflect the sense of place where you are. And so we worked with the community really closely to do canvassing, survey. We had a very active stakeholder group to understand how the themes that make Bound Brook unique. So this was one of our survey promotions, basically asked the question, what makes Bound Brook unique? And some of the themes we heard were history and tradition, the cultural diversity, the arts, the Brooks Art Center is very well known, and wanting to really highlight the key destinations and the key historical landmarks. So we created this, we worked with a graphic designer here at the university to create this design aesthetic for the city of Bound Brook, to develop a new wayfinding system. And we also created for them a map of the historic downtown in the same look and feel of the wayfinding signs. And Passaic, the city of Passaic, this was actually one of our first technical assistance projects when we launched the Vibrant Places program. The city of Passaic has a vibrant restaurant scene, and they have, similarly to Dover, a lot of unique ethnic foods. They are heavily Latino. It's sort of like you can really experience a lot of different cultures just in one area in the city of Passaic. And they were working on developing this concept for the Bistro District. So we partnered with them to do a walking tour of the Bistro District and help them to bring people into the downtown. And again, this was one of those placemaking initiatives that was more about activation. And we worked really closely with the business community and with the residents to promote this initiative. So here's some photos just to share of our walking tour. And we worked to develop a restaurant guide as well for them. And I think that I am just about out of time, right? See Mark pop up. Again, you can see these themes that keep coming up in our work with the Vibrant Places program. It's really about listening to what people want and then having that reflected in the work that you do in placemaking. Because without that, the places will not be, used or received in the way that you intend. And so it's really important that you have an engagement plan as part of your overall initiative for placemaking. So I will end there with my contact information. Again, you can contact me at Rutgers. If the Vibrant Places program might be a good fit for your community, we have a call for applications every August and September, and new projects are chosen in the fall. So I will end there. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much, Miriam, for that. I think we dropped the link towards your Together New Jersey that has the PDFs of what you showed too. So folks who are interested in kind of exploring in detail the fabulous things that Miriam just showed, just follow that link, and definitely feel free to reach out to any of our participants today, our panelists today. I do want to do a really quick poll, kind of as like a refresher before we introduce our last pair of speakers who are coming from Morris County. And this is sort of a poll just to kind of gauge, like, before today, if you knew anything about placemaking, if you heard that term before, but also just to see where folks are when it comes to planning for the 250th. That way we can help gauge our future webinars and things like that. And I'll give folks a minute to just do the quick poll and report what we have as our results. But while folks are doing this, I do want to introduce our third speaker, Tom Werder, who's the executive director with Morris Arts since May 2012. Werder serves as the chief operating executive officer and directs and administers all programs, operations, and policies, including supervising the professional staff, managing the annual budget, and leading the strategic planning process. In New Jersey, Werder previously served as the managing director of Two River Theater Company in Red Bank, the executive director of Carolyn Dorfman Dance, based in Union, and the managing director of George Street Playhouse in New Brunswick. Prior to that, he was the managing director of the Portland Stage Company in Portland, Maine, where he was also a member of the executive committee for the Portland Arts and Cultural Alliance, an organization charged with the creation of a downtown arts district and credited with the revitalization of the city's downtown area. On a national level, he was twice an executive committee member of the League of Resident Theaters and a member of numerous collective bargaining committees. He has served on the board and executive committees of Dance USA and Dance New Jersey, served as a treasurer of the Morris County Tourism Bureau, and is on the board of the Bridge to Recovery in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Tom received his MFA in theater management from the Yale School of Drama and his BFA from Purchase College, SUNY, where he was lighting designer and stage manager. Before Tom hops in, I would like to just report back. We had about 32% of folks here who are very familiar with placemaking, 39 who have heard of it before, and 28 who said that they were unfamiliar with it. And about 68% of you have started planning for the 250th, and 32% of you have multiple community partners already in place. 53 have a couple of community partners in place, and 15 have little to no community partners in place. Thank you so much for that. We definitely want to keep our pulse on what's going on in this state as we move forward. And with no further ado, here's Tom.
Thanks, Mark. I'm Tom Werder. I'm executive director at Morris Arts, as Mark said. And I'm here today to share a few examples of the work that we do in the communities around Morristown, where our offices are. We feel like we were doing creative placemaking long before that became a popular term. And I wanted to share a couple of great examples of that. We'll start with a program that we've been doing for about 13 years now called Pumpkin Illumination. This was started by Katie Dempsey, who used to be our director of creative placemaking. She's on this call somewhere. And when we first started, we identified this location in Morristown. This is the Vale Mansion and the reflecting pool in front of the Vale Mansion. And Katie thought it would be a great idea to invite people to bring their carved pumpkins and place it around the reflecting pool. And then when it started to get dark that evening, we'd ask everybody to light up their pumpkins at the same time, and everyone would go ooh and ah. And that was about it for the idea, you know, and we we put out the invitation and we got a little nervous that people weren't going to show up. So we made sure that we had some carved pumpkins of our own out there. And just as it started to get dark, we noticed a lot of people starting to arrive with their red wagons with their kids and their pumpkins in it. And people started to place them around the pool as we had suggested, and it turned into quite an event. So we also, you know, as the years have gone on, we've engaged the public with more activities that evening. We've added art workshops, we've added some music. We have a luminary parade led by the mayor and his wife, and then we have the lighting of the pumpkins. As you can see, we also do that advertising in Spanish, hoping to get a good cross-section of the community to be involved in the event. And as you'll see from the video I'm going to share, it's turned into quite a large event. The year after we introduced it, we got about 70 people that first night. The year after we introduced it was a horrible ice storm, so we canceled it that year. The following year was Superstorm Sandy, and our event was the night before Superstorm Sandy, and there were some people that thought we were FEMA handing out little electric tea lights, but we did have our event that night. There were not that many people that showed up, but the following year it started to grow, and we had something like 750 people arrive the next year, and then we have well over 1,000 people each year now. So I'll just share this video, and then we'll get on to one of our other events.
Join us for the 13th Annual Pumpkin Illumination, a family-friendly event with live music, a luminary parade, art workshop, and an illuminating pumpkin display. Sunday, October 23rd, starting at 5 p.m. Register for free at morrisarts.org.
So that gives you a sense of how the event has grown over the years, and it's now an event that people call us and say, "So when are you doing that again?" And they really count on it as part of their fall celebrations of Halloween, which is certainly one of the best family holidays. But the next project that we had is actually a public art project, and it was the kickoff of a public art program that we started in Morristown, again with Katie, and we had applied for a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts to support this project, and it became the basis for an idea of having commercial developers in town fund public art projects. And this project was the first example of a public art piece that was funded by a local developer who had built a luxury apartment building across the street from the Grow It Green of Morristown's community garden, which is really located at the intersection of the downtown and the neighborhoods in Morristown. And this is, I think, one of the best examples of creating a place that has gone on to become a center for a lot of activity. And I will share with you a wonderful video. It's a little long, but I think it's worth it. And you'll get to see how this project came together, and then to see how we launched it with the community.
why shouldn't artists decide what's important to people, to their culture? So all I did was giving a platform so they could really express themselves. That was a platform to do that by having totem poles.
It's really something that should have been done a long time ago. You know, it should have been done for the people that have settled in that area, the immigrants.
Now, we're on the street now, okay? So when you drive by, you will have two icons you can see. If you walk on the walkway, you see one on each side. And then in the back will be benches. So you actually will be able to sit and view this side and the back side and this side and the back side the most. So this is how it's going to be laid out. It has more stone on it yet. Still. I just try things out, you know, textures and, you know, it's going to take another 6 hours to get this where it should be. But I'm just right now just trying to find my way a little bit where what is, you know, take out this stuff and sort of let it pop up a little bit. You always have to redraw. So we can see what we have.
We had a call to artists, several people applied. Gabrielle, by far, her work was beyond anything I had seen in the other people. A lot of people had applied that do more contemporary sculpture, you know, very geometric. And we went to the neighborhood house, we did community engagement process. Gabrielle actually came up with the idea to have most of the sculptures, most of the stones representing regions where people had come from and using flora and fauna for obvious reasons. This is going to be at the foot of the community garden.
And I'm happy to have this there in a medium that is not immediate. It's not instant gratification. It's something they should look at, can look at and say, hey, how is this done?
How does that?
This,
Yeah.
I'm using a hammer and a chisel to make this. A claw chisel. And then I'm going to go back in and make sure that I'll get a nice curvature.
The exciting thing for Mars Arts right now is that this is really going to change the face of who we are in the community and already has, because we're moving into a whole nother area that we've never really been able to do before, which is real public art. So to be able to facilitate this kind of a change in the face of Marstown is really exciting. It's giving a voice to all these issues that have been going on for so many years, and I love the whole regional flora, fauna, the images. It's so earthy and so organic and so deeply rooted in the earth.
Take a look. Oh, it looks great.
Pretty good. Now we're going to put honeycombs on the back.
Oh, nice. That's beautiful. I love that. That's my favorite one.
This is the dragonfly, which is not done yet. We'll have to do the feathers. This is the Mexican sailfish. Notice the water.
Yep. Everything's got the perfect background. Oh my gosh. So are there 16 different groups?
Well,
Or how did you
there's, it became so difficult to have only cut if we went for region. unless it was clear for Ireland.
Okay, okay, right.
So this is again the Caribbean, the Mexican sailfish, it's for Mexico. This is the eagle we thought for Native American, but really everybody.
Yeah,
It's not
sure.
done yet, yeah. And then the toucan for the Amazon, that's the only one that hasn't been touched.
Right.
Some people from Colombia felt they wanted to see a Colombian coffee bean.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. And then we have the Sankofa bird, which is also a cultural icon for Africa.
Okay.
It's a bird
Oh, wow.
has a seat and they're looking back at their own history. The Jewish community, for instance, they wanted to represent a menorah. They gave me this. This was designed for the synagogue in Morristown, for that area. And they felt that they were represented this way the best. And I thought that was a great thing to do, to have a cultural representation.
And we wanted to honor that immigrant experience as part of who Morristown is as a people. And nothing could have said it better than something done in stone.
I'm actually going to put another bit on here now. We're combining a lot of things, and it's great to have had the community involved to help build this, because it's not just about us or my little vision or about an artist or a craftsperson. It's really all about us. Everything works together. We're all interconnected. Everything is interconnected. And I think that's what we're sort of trying to demonstrate a little bit with this as well. On that one today. Yeah. I don't want to mess it up.
And when you see the community coming together and just in awe, appreciating this amazing, beautiful piece of art in their community, in their neighborhood, and knowing that those people will not just come and leave, that they will be there, and they're going to be enjoying that sculpture for years to come, and they're going to be creating their own story in the space. And that's really what it's about. It's about people taking the space now and creating their own dialogue and their own story.
So that's just a wonderful example of a place that now exists because of those sculptures that we can continue to do programming in. We've done art shows there, we've done music performances. It continues to be an entrance way to the community garden. And we're really quite proud of that project and what it's done for that neighborhood and how it represented all the people of Morristown. So that was a great way to engage the community in a project that helps make it successful. And finally, just real quickly, I'll add that we recently did a project called The Untold Stories of Storied People. And this was a collaboration with Storytelling Arts. And we, in the Morristown stop of this tour of these storytellers who were regular folks in the community who were given some training in becoming storytellers. They did their performance at the Urban Farm, which is another project of Grow It Green, Morristown, and also an old schoolyard where one of the storytellers actually used to play as a child. And it featured a group of storytellers from around the state who did their project in 4 different communities. And Morristown was one of the great stops along the way. And this was a really site-specific performance that engaged quite a few people from the community. You can see one of the storytellers is sitting here on the old monkey bars that were in the schoolyard, in the old tennis court that was there, somebody up on a little bluff in the corner of the property, and the audience would travel between each station to hear the next storyteller share their story. And finally, this is just outside of the Urban Farm, the group of storytellers that were assembled. So that's a few great examples from Morris Art's work, and thanks for letting me share that with you today.
Thank you so much, Tom. That was such a beautiful video. And I know there's folks in the chat that are saying that they're just getting so many ideas from all of our panelists today, which is exactly what we're hoping, just to get those gears greased up, and hopefully folks can start thinking about their own communities and the types of stories that they want to explore themselves. I'm going to introduce our last speaker, Craig Schlosser, and then please, folks, put some questions in the Q&A box. I'm sure there's a lot of great advice and pathways we can go down together that we can really start thinking about the 250th and incorporating everything you're hearing here. Craig is the president of the Morris County Economic Development Alliance and Morris County Tourism Bureau, which is a division of the Morris County Economic Development Alliance, and serves as the managing director of the Morris County Economic Development Corporation. Prior to his current role, Mr. Schlosser served for 7 years as the vice president for the Middlesex County Regional Chamber of Commerce and Central Jersey Convention and Visitors Bureau. Mr. Schlosser is an active member of the community where he serves on numerous boards, advisory boards, committees, and as a nonprofit executive. He is currently on the New Jersey State Employment and Training Commission's Apprenticeship Committee, advisory board member of the Citizens Bank, president and advisory board co-chair for the First Night Morris County, and an advisory board member for the New Jersey Small Business Development Center, a board member of the New Jersey Travel and Industry Association, a committee member of NJTIA's NJDMO committee, and serves on the Business Outreach Committee for the Morris Sussex Warren Workforce Development Board. Craig previously chaired 6 out of 8 talent networks in central New Jersey and served as the Middlesex County Workforce Development Board's one-stop operator. In 2016, New Jersey's Marketing Association, the NJ Ad Club, honored Mr. Schlosser with Jersey's Best 40 Under 40 for his marketing and business development accomplishments. Please welcome Craig.
Mark, thank you so much. And of course, we have the privilege to work with so many wonderful people each and every day on this call. So we're really excited to get a chance to share with this. So I'm going to go through a couple of things from a creative placemaking perspective, but also I want to tie it back to my background. A lot of it's within economic development and workforce development. I think one thing that's really important to understand about creative placemaking and how we look at things, art is a part of your everyday life. Creative placemaking is a way to help tell stories that relate to history, your culture, and your community, using the arts as a mechanism to really bring people together and share the beauty that are the wonders of the outstanding communities we all have an opportunity to service or work with each day. I'm going to share my deck here. I'm going to give you a couple different examples of things that I've done with things that we've done through the tourism area to allow, hopefully, to inspire you, to give you some new ideas, and maybe look at things from a little bit different perspective before we get into a Q&A on everything. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen right now. And when we get this rocking and rolling, we should be in a great place to go with this. So For creative placemaking, one thing that I think is really important, as you've learned, is Morris County is a fantastic place for creative placemaking. We're very fortunate to have so many wonderful communities like Dover that we talked about. We have outstanding areas and things that Tom has done at Morris Arts. I think when we take a look at creative placemaking, the opportunity for all of us is to make sure that we understand that the art is everywhere. And once we look at it from that lens and that perspective, and art has a means to tell a story, whether it's about our community, our cultures, or our history, it becomes a different thought process and you realize the opportunities that exist. Now, one thing that we talked about creative placemaking, we've done a really good overview of this, is that art is placed at the center of planning and execution. And I think one thing that's important as we go through with this is that when we look at utilizing partnerships with arts and culture to create that community character, which encourages economic development and physical and social change, the concepts of that are going to apply through some of the examples that we're going to talk about here. Now, one thing that I think is extremely important with stuff is we have a great partner in Morris County in the Mayo Performing Arts Center. Katie Dempsey, who's Tom's brought up before, the Katie is just absolutely marvelous in what she does. We're very fortunate to have her and so many other wonderful people that are involved at the Mayo Performing Arts Center and Morris Arts that bring Morristown as a focal point of the community. Now, one thing that's beautiful about Morristown is we have arts and we have history, which really gives us a great area and a great dynamic to go to. But there's other wonderful supporting communities out there like Dover. The visitor guide that was discussed earlier is a wonderful piece of culture. It's great in a diverse community that comes together that has a vibrant downtown. Creative placemaking is outstanding for any community that has a vibrant downtown and a vibrant community that wants to show it off by using the arts as a mechanism to do so. One thing that I think is so important about when you look at organizations like the Mayo and Morris Arts and how you bring business improvement districts in like the Morristown Partnership is everybody's working together collaboratively through the arts and working in a partnership to really create that outstanding experience. When we look at it from a tourism perspective, where we want to bring people that are from outside the area, which depending on your definition, you're looking for people that are 20 to 30 miles out from the point you are, that's at least your out of area with it. Those folks that we're targeting from a tourism perspective, we often focus on events or programs that brand our community under a strategy we call major events. Our major event strategy really focuses on programs that bring more than 1,000 people. And more often than not, there's a creative placemaking element that always goes in line with that. And that's where major performing venues and other artistic organizations come to play for us. Now, when we look at major events, those of you that know me know that I've run First Night Morris County, which is the largest First Night in the Mid-Atlantic for about a decade. We have over 200 artists, 70 plus performances. It's in downtown Morristown. And one thing that's really important about the event is we do it all throughout the community at all different types of venues, including some really beautiful architectural rich churches. These churches are a core part of our community that really allow us people to get a chance to feel it and experience it. And we have thousands of people that come in. In the past, Tom and his team has been nice enough to do our artistic programming and continues to advise us each year on it. It's a way for people to experience the community, but also experience the history, because we'll bring in living reenactors that come into play where we've had everything from George Washington to Mozart to Abraham Lincoln. But then you're going to go over and have a wonderful experience with a creative component. And then we're going to encourage you to dine downtown and experience the wonderful restaurant and culinary and put it together in an artistic representation of a phenomenal program that comes to play. There's always things that are tying together where the arts are always the focal point that are coming back to the community. But if you're thinking it from an economic development perspective, we're thinking about what are the dollars that we get for each person that comes from outside the area to Morris County? And on the second thing with that, when you think about things in tourism, you look at your hotel revenue tax, which can bring over $4 million to your community being throughout the county over the course of the year. Events like this are important because heads and beds means local property tax relief. So the reason I bring this program up is, yes, it's arts. Yes, there's a component that ties it back to history, but it also has a really good direct economic impact. So when we're talking about creative placemaking, it makes people feel great about where they live. It really gets that value proposition, but it's also a tool to drive economic growth and attract people to the area. So often when I'm talking with companies or travelers, it goes, Morris County is a lot better than I expected. This is a really great place. I just wish I knew about it sooner. I'm so happy I came here because of work or because of this event. So placemaking has its place no pun intended, in terms of economic development, and is a really important part that if we can tie elements of it into major events and major strategies, it offers opportunity for growth that's very measurable, because we can look at measurable success. And as we look at stakeholder engagement, measurable success, especially from the non-arts community, can really help us gain that involvement and opportunity to allow people to see that creative placemaking is something that can make a major impact and should be an important part of your community planning opportunities. Now, one thing that's also really nice about it is we talk about history and we go towards that. Morris County had an enormous amount of mansions that were built in the late part of the 19th century, somewhat into the 20th century. There's a program called Mansion in May. What we then do is bring in art designers that come in, they take a mansion and they literally transform it before and after. It's a huge program that drives in over 25,000 people. It's a major fundraiser for our hospital system that's out there, but it's something that highlights the rich history of Morris County and bringing beauty and art and design coming together with history. It's a wonderful program and it's a charity for our hospital. It's something that's unique. It's something that really brands the rural communities that we have and away from the downtown centers, but it's really cool in terms of what we have there. Finally, one thing that everybody knows in Morris County is the Morristown Green. It is the center focal point of almost everything that runs in Morristown. What most people don't know is it's not actually owned by the town, it's owned by a group of trustees that maintain it and make it beautiful each and every day. The green has a couple key features on it. It has a wonderful statue that you see in the upper left-hand corner that includes George Washington there. It has a beautiful fountain of a soldier going off to war. It has a nice statue in the bottom right that you see there of the C&I, which was founded in Morris County. And it has a history sign for what the green was when it was founded in 1715. What most people don't also know with it is the facts of the matter that on the actual green itself, we put in new what we call wayfinding signs, which we talked about earlier. These signs highlight historical landmarks that were actually on the green or around Morristown. We just put them in last year with the help of the trustees of the green. They are a wonderful set that allows you to see history looking out on the green along with art that surrounds representations of that. You literally can stand next to George Washington being a statue of him. You can go take a look at signs on the green that shows what was here before. What was this? And in having wayfinding there and on what we have within the green in the center of what's becoming an urban metropolis, you see the beautiful nature of it. You see the historical essence of it, but you also see beautiful art as you're surrounded by statues and different elements that really allow you to see history, art, and community come together in one place. That's why the green is such a huge focal point. When we launch fireworks on New Year's Eve, everyone goes to the green. They go to the green because it's the focal point of our community that's representative, it's diverse, it's beautiful. It's one of those areas that if you visit Morris County, when I'm taking individuals that are coming internationally to here to visit us, first place I take them is, I'm over at the Tourism Bureau. Hey, let's go walk over and let me show you the green. Let me show you the statue. Let me show you our history. It's about showing some of our community in one place in our county seat that's very, very powerful to them when you're from outside the area. For us, we take it for granted. Oh, it's just the green. It's there. But it's something that really brings everything together in one place. And it's also only a few blocks from the Mayo. It's a few blocks down from the Vale Mansion when we do things. It's a hub and a focal point of our community as we continue to expand out and do things. And it's something that's really unique. On the other side of it, when we look at bringing history to life, those two on the left-hand side can see the photo there. The woman in the dress is Carol Barkin. Carol Barkin's our director of heritage programming. Those of you that know Carol, she has always said one thing to me. Her love of history is what she wants to share. So each and every day that she's with us on things, I want to make sure that we have her opportunity to share her love of history. But with sharing her love of history is also bringing art to play, bringing folks through these wonderful walking tours. We go all throughout Morris County and highlight our beautiful history is also often telling stories about beautiful art. It's about beautiful interior design. It's the fact that art is all throughout our story of history. It's about experiencing the beauty. It's about understanding different components with it, but it's also understanding some of the suffering that could have went related to it through the story of art and allowing people to understand that this artistic painting represents this, or this artistic item represents this, and it relates back those personal experiences and stories through a historical lens. So when we're looking at it, there's a lot of key things here that we do through interactive programs, whether it's walking tours, programs like First Night, even how we work with individuals when they visit our area and they're looking to come here with their company's organization to relocate, in understanding that different places for the art and history representation have an important part of how we look at economic development and community development and its impact towards our communities and our economic success. With that, it also is a mechanism and means to communicate the value of what we can do from an economic perspective and why creative placemaking is so important for things. And it's not a nice to have. It's one of those things that I often think is undervalued. And if you execute it properly, it creates those spaces and opportunities where we get to share the beauty and wonders that we really do have here in New Jersey, which is arts, history, culture, and communities. We do an outstanding job in it. It does what we do so well, which is a high quality of life. Finally, one thing that I always think is important to bring up is this weekend, we're very excited because we have living history. April 22nd, 23rd, we are going to have the National Park. It's going to come together with its reenactment. We actually have the first historical national park in the entire country here in Morristown, where George Washington wintered twice, not once like he did at Valley Forge. Yes, we run a billboard in Valley Forge that says that. But it is one of those things that when you look at it, people get a chance to experience with actors. One thing that I think is so powerful is the understanding that reenactors, their acting is the arts, it's the performing arts. And it's something that's very cool with it because it brings history to a whole nother light. It brings people to a whole nother area and it allows people to experience in so many different ways that I think it's always important that we understand that what I just shared before in terms of the statues and that there was a component with there. So tying everything together, whether it's at that focal point of creative placement or having supportive programs that drive things back to it, it's about understanding that creative placemaking is an important element in your toolbox, but there are other supporting elements that have to come together where you get that ecosystem impact and you can have that exponential growth with it. That's a real high value of where creative placemaking can be its best. It can be a connection and conduit point to make all of your other programs stronger, better, and allow you to grow and be more successful, especially if you're looking at economic and community growth endeavors. Now, one thing that I think is so important here as we look to close this out here, it's about to simplify and beautify an area is not enough to achieve creative placemaking. We really want to make sure that we go beyond that and that we look to measure and create impact. And I think when we look at the last one, consider and measure the impact this project will have on your community. When you can measure economic impact, it allows people to see that creative placemaking has a value and its direct ROI can be X. Now that may be hard to quantify, but there are ways that we can do it, that we can show the value of the program, what its impact is. For example, one thing we did this past year with our walking tours is when individuals bought a walking tour, we tracked the zip code that they came from on their credit card sales, if they were from out of the area, based on a targeted marketing campaign. And then we gave them a $10 Morristown Partnership gift certificate to shop locally. And the question that we often got back with the partnership when we worked with them, when they got them back was, did this person spend more than $10 in your store? Did you get an upsell opportunity? Those type of small economic impact measurable about bringing people from outside the area in, getting people to spend more locally by working with another local partner, and knowing that you had money go directly back into the community is a measurable means that we can do so even on a small scale where we're showing impact. So while it sometimes sounds like it's hard to do, there are small things that we can do, and we just need to start small, execute, and be consistent. And I think that's really where we can be successful on things. So with that, I conclude my part of the program and just want to say thank you so much and turn it back over to you, Mark.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Craig. And thank you so much, everyone, for all of your presentations today. I definitely have a couple of questions that are coming in to me, at least in the chat. I'm not sure if they're in the Q&A. I do want to start off with one larger general question. Just kind of like, what advice would you have for a community who wants to just get their feet wet into placemaking? They haven't done this yet, and they're thinking, they saw this presentation today and they want to get the ball rolling. What is some like quick, easy ways in which they can start doing that kind of work? Especially with the 250th in mind as one of our big goals.
I would suggest that you don't try to top down the idea, but as all of us have been talking about, to engage with the community that you're looking to create a place with, So it's really important to find members of that community to help you imagine what your creative placemaking idea might be. And I think you'll find much more success if you do that.
I think, Tom, you make a good point on that. Every program that we do it's a lot of listening. It's really about understanding the community and what they want, and then creating a representation for that. And I think, Tom, you're spot on. You do a great job of that. We're doing the American Arts study with you as well through the Economic Development Corporation, what's called 86. It's intensive. I think, Tom, it's a 2-year study is going to be the end result of what that's going to be. So it's an enormous effort with the listening, but I think it's probably the best place to start, and then that'll tell you where to go.
And I would just say, like, within the listening bucket of things you can do, probably the easiest thing you can do if you just want to like gather some ideas is just do a really quick little online survey that you can share on social media, that you can, send out via email blast to organizations in your town. You can just use Google tools. There's lots of, free, easy ways to do it, because you'll be surprised what you hear come back, and that might spark ideas and then be able to, the information you need to put something into action.
And then I would add to that, though, if you can, you have the time, energy, effort, do a pop-up, because surveys I find tend to be female, white, and affluent respondents, as opposed to if you just go on the street, you can get a vinyl banner made for like $80 with a cool, either it could be part Instagram worthy. In Metuchen, we did like heart Metuchen, and then we had people just write on a postcard, take a selfie with themselves, what do they love? And on the back side of the banner, we actually did a 2-sided banner, and we asked some type of placemaking, question to get people's ideas. And you would not believe how many people will just, stop by, particularly if they love the community or they love the place. They want to tell you that they love the place and why, and then you can engage them and ask for ideas. And it's like 5 hours of your time, a little pop-up tent, and an $80 banner. It's not a lot of, but it gets you really good results.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. One of the questions we're receiving, as you know, this is part of a larger history-centered initiative for the 250th. One of the questions is, what can history organizations do to become more central to the creative placemaking initiatives you folks talked about today? We've heard a lot about the arts and how the art community is involved, and also how they pull from history oftentimes when it comes to the art that they're installing. But what is it that history organizations and practitioners in the state can do to kind of be more part of the larger creative placemaking work going on in the state?
Mark, I think that goes back to the conversation you and I had about a week ago, is that it's about understanding where you came from can help you understand where you're going. And I think history is a core important thing for us, and often it's representative in terms of the arts. And I think one thing that I really like about this when we look at it is that history is so important, because the story of where we came from helps us understand where we want to go in the future and the type of community that we want to have. So I think always having a historian or the other perspectives in it is good. The other thing most of the time is, anybody that's a history major here like myself, there's 3 things that we got to put in an essay: social, economic, and political, all key elements in community development in terms of what we do. So just from a thought process, the skill set aligns really well to really help with that.
And I would suggest those organizations collaborate with the arts organizations in their community. We do that quite often. Recently, we did something with the Morris County Historical Society about the original sewing school in Morristown. And it was a great collaboration. And I think there's a lot of potential for lots of projects to happen that way.
Yeah, and I'd say ask an artist, right? I think part of that is in your board development and your leadership development is historic boards tend to be people who are interested in history. Get somebody who's interested in art on your board, and or get an intern. But again, don't go from the history discipline, go to the arts discipline, and they'll learn a little bit about history, and hopefully you'll learn a little bit, and they'll give you some really good ideas about integrating arts.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing we do is we have for the Alliance coming out, we have an Arts, History, and Culture Committee that's coming back out specifically for conversation and topics like this. To your point on that, Courtney, and to yours, Tom, like you have to have cross-functional teams. If you don't have a good cross-functional team and good leadership from it, that's kind of where we see the Alliance from a 501c3 has to be so important in this, because economic and community development, the concept of community economic development is very important that has to be addressed. So this is an exact example of that. So I think both of you are spot on.
We have one more question. I know we're running out of time, and for folks who are asking, yes, it is recorded, and we will be putting this up on our website on RevolutionNJ.org, but also on our YouTube channel, and we will be attaching a resource list with links that were shared by our presenters and also other links that I've been able to find while doing research for this placemaking webinar. One of the questions is, can you talk a little bit about funding opportunities outside of the NEA when it comes to placemaking?
AARP has the, what is that? Livable Communities. Off the top of my head, I don't know, but Mark,
Yeah.
look it up and put it in the resource thing. AARP, obviously Miriam's Vibrant Places program. Those are the ones that pop to my head first off. But
And I think given that we have a lot of lead time, there
Yeah.
there is money available from your county arts councils. Every county has one. They're not always called the Arts Council, but sometimes they're the Art and Cultural Commission, or like Morris Arts in Morris County. And they have a local arts grant program, and some of these ideas would fit into those programs.
and by the way, if any of you are locals, not many people have taken advantage of it, but the state did pass that you can do an arts tax similar to how you can do open space farmland. So from the community level, that might be a great way, and then you can kind of pool those resources to do something that combines all three.
Mhm.
And we do have in the resource list that I'm going to be releasing, there is a number of different grants that are in our state from the different historical organizations and state departments, national programs, things like that, where it requires us being a little creative in how we pitch and sell the programs and exactly how we're really describing the type of work we're doing. There's different avenues available for us outside of just the NEA. So definitely take a look at what's available. As Tom mentioned, we at the Historical Commission have our CHIP program, which is a county historical cultural heritage program, where this can potentially fit as a potential project for communities and organizations. I do want to be mindful of everyone's time, and I just want to say thank you so much to all of our panelists today for taking part in this placemaking initiative, and also to put a kind of bug in folks' head that next week on Tuesday, we'll be having part 2 of this webinar series, which is going to be really focusing kind of on that more of that community plan, cultural asset identification aspects of placemaking that you heard a little bit about today. So please register for those. The link is in the chat room, but you could also see it on our website and all of our sort of social media. So I just want to say thank you to everyone, and a special shout out to Noelle Lorraine Williams, who was helping me behind the scenes with sending out links and also spotlighting speakers and taking care of all the behind the scenes work.